honestly, still
Finds a
performing
Kali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out simply. Tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the
don't.
and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters. And then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good death running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Good Death trying to stall time for his 80 carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big
As
Bongo
the
boys.
series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen Recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang.
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up. Come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solo.
Big
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3v2 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before he's last. Dies, and Chicken Fried Rice 200 Steve with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal him. And the call comes back in the circuit, flip finds one. Can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage to Treble back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a teamfight and took the victory.
The higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly,
They
still
find the
performing
Kali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out simply. Tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the
don't.
and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo Boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters, and then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon. We do have good depth running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Field Death trying to stall time for his 80 carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big Bongo Boys.
The series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen Recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up.
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up. Come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was
Go.
smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Big
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3v3 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before he's last. Dies, and Chicken Fried Rice to escape with good depth, does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal up, and they call comes back in the Shuriken Flip, finds one, can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage retrieval back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a teamfight and took the victory.
The higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly,
They
still
find
performing
Akali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out, simply tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the bullet time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the
don't.
ace, and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo Boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters, and then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good depth running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
and this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Field Death trying to stall time for his 80 carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big Bongo Boys.
The series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen Recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up.
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made.
And it's also week 6. That means we got teams on the bubble trying to make it into the playoffs. I'll be your host this evening. I'm Koopa, and with me is Lam and Lucan. How are we doing? I know how we're doing because we've been chatting in the green room, but how are we doing right now?
Personally, I'm about to go into a...
whoa. Excited. Look, we're already...
I'm excited.
The synergy was popping already, and no spoilers. But we're excited for this one, man. We're in for a banger tonight. We've done our homework. Of course we do. Lucan, we know exactly how this is going to pan out. Now, something important that you need to realize is I don't give my prediction until after the series is done, so that I'm always right, baby.
Yeah.
That's quick math.
There you go.
And I like to say the team that's going to win the grand finals before I even know what that team is. So I mean, like we got both ends of the spectrum. Like it's kind of
everybody get your fantasy risen draft.
I will
cards
give
out.
you a hint though too, as my premonition status. In their logo, they have a line of black in it somewhere. So I mean, like there's a lot of possibilities there. If you can guess which one it is, then I'll give you a fortune cookie.
Well, there you go. Get your bingo cards out, folks.
Oh, hell yeah.
Tonight, though, we've got the wonderfully named T2, T5, but Cinnabon Sayori versus No Pond Light. Those are the two captains of these teams. And they're both 3-2 on the series. So one of these teams is trying to make it to 4-2 to kind of hopefully secure a spot for the playoffs. And the one that loses this might be tied up and hoping, but most likely won't be making it. So both of these teams have a lot going on for them tonight.
All to play for. And really, every game this season, regardless whether or not you're coming into the playoffs, it's all been to play for. And we've seen really big individual performances coming out from pretty much every team that takes to the Rift. They've always got that key player. And look, and both of these teams certainly do have that in the rosters.
I completely agree with you. I do think that there are a few outliers in the way that I think these teams are going to be playing against each other, and that they do have some contrasting ways in which, at least on paper, it looks like they'll be playing against each other. I see more of an early game focus from both sides of the jungle, especially coming out of Blue Sox. Now, in comp, you're very commonly seeing things like a Hecarim or some sort of tanky engage, press a go button, and then yell at your team and just kind of give them a direction to go, and they kind of dogpile on, and then stuff happens. It's not often that you see somebody pop into comp and is willing to pick out a Shaco. And for that, I do think that I do have a series favorite already over in Blue Sox. But paired with him in the mid-jungle combo with him is a nasty Zillion in Rex OG.
If they get it.
If they get it, true. I mean, like if they're bad, I mean, he has nothing else. There's nothing else on the table. Everything else has fallen apart, and all of my excitement is gone, just completely gone.
Yeah,
I'll be very sad.
You know, you bring up a good point because Rex over in that mid lane. Yes, Zillion would be a nice pick, but it's not like they're not playing a bunch of other stuff either. They play the mid lane, so it's a toss up. What they're going to be able to do to even try and maybe hurt that mid lane. Lam, we were talking about that earlier too. You know, what kind of strategies these teams might play off of each other. Do you go for the weak side and try to cripple the lowest rank, or do you try to take somebody out who's got a really high champ pool or a really high rank?
Well, see, it's a difficult question to answer because really the meta right now, there's so many strong picks on either side, on the top side and the bot side. You have to try and make your mind up well before draft what you're actually going to play to, because it enables your jungler to actually play for these big objectives, right? I've seen a lot of emphasis on the dragons. I mean, 20-minute potential dragon soul, that kind of thing is definitely a game-winning condition that most teams will try and play for if they do get that strong side in the bot. So we do see those champions in the pools for some of these players. So it's really a case of, are you going to go toe-to-toe and try and coin flip that priority, or are you going to react in the draft? You know what I mean? So preparing for these games, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough.
It really is. In fact, just taking a look back and forth over like what you're going to be prioritizing as well too. You do have to consider who has been the win condition between these teams and where they want to flip it based off of who they're going against. As I've understood a little bit here, I do think that MK Beaver over on T5 has been a solid top laner for T5. And if you pair that over with the flexibility that he has with over going to the bot lane, apparently, where he might be picking up some games down there and throwing another. We might see some power plays into the side lanes with maybe less of a focus onto something over in mid lane, having something safe there. And then how that'll affect the map will kind of come up into whatever is going to be picked up on the other side of draft, because even if you do have a solid side lane, from what I can tell of Touty, actually, is it seems to play fairly damage-heavy top laners to kind of go back on this, meaning that if there is going to be more aggression over from the top side, it might even open up a lot of play to be seen from there.
Yeah, and just an interesting stat across the board is that actually T5 is coming off of a 2-loss streak. And T2 is looking pretty strong with a two-game win streak. So there's even the kind of mindset of we got to break something or we're riding high here. So even though maybe based on ranks, T2 is not quite as high up in the ranking matchups, they are running on some steam, and that can definitely carry you when you're in the last game of the season. Everything's on the line.
So just to quickly touch on, I want to touch on something that Lucan says. So you see a conflict of the style of top laners for both of these teams, right? We have that tank priority set on one side, and then we have those individual big carries that can potentially come out on the other side as well. So that's a big factor. And most of the time, top lane is an island, baby, and it's whoever sinks or swims in that lane is the one who actually... Well, it won't win the game, let's be honest. Top lane means absolutely nothing these days. No. But look, it definitely means something in the 5-on-5 team fight. So if the tank can get out of that lane, stay even get ahead. You've seen Ornn is a huge priority. It's crazy the amount that this guy can actually 1v1 you, even in the early game. So it's not to be underestimated. So I'm really expecting fireworks in this game really early. You know, they'll probably try and feel each other out, but it's going to be exciting, man. I'm looking forward to
I'm
this.
expecting a bloodbath. I want to see Vladimir in every lane, even if he's not in the game. Like, that is all that we're going to be seeing here, and I'm really hoping that it does happen. And I'm going to be both happy and sad if Zilean pops in, because then it means it'll be like there's a Zilean, yeah, sure, but then there's also not as much blood. So, you know,
I mean,
take one with the other. So.
The other thing too is Touty, you know, playing possibly Lilia, possibly Diana, but also Zac in the top lane. That kind of throws things off too, because where's Zac? If Zac's not on the map top lane, then everybody's kind of freaking out, because now you've got a second jungle opportunity, and that could be potentially problematic if things aren't going well. And they're playing Zac. Well, you've got, you know, possibly Shaco, possibly Rek'Sai, possibly Elise. You've got things coming from all over the place, so they might be able to flip the play style. Even if that island is looking good for MK Beaver, if the collapse is in mid lane and they just shove it down the short lane, then maybe that's how they change things up. So even though, like I said, the ranks aren't quite there, I think the champ comfort picks that are here are just like, okay, you could build some comps off of these things that could help you out depending on where you're either doing well or where you need to send somebody to save it.
So it's a case where we'll see multiple styles across the board here. I know Lucan's strapped in. I'm pretty strapped in too. But Panda, you know where to send us, baby.
Yeah, man. I'm sending y'all to the draft. It's about to get this thing started. Let's see what happens.
All right, man. It's do or die for both of these teams. No matter how we try and predict it, it never comes out that way, right? They'll always throw a spanner in the works. But the banning phase is most important, because we've already touched on a few of the individual champions that some people like to play more than others. Multiple, actually hundreds of games on, so you have to really put respect on that. But it's a case where, do you try and play around the meta here, Lucan? Do you try and just pick these really big picks that, if anybody's been watching Worlds, Sag for Fnatic, really sad actually. I was gloating it so hard in the beginning and all of a sudden off a cliff. But look, the Aatrox, all of these big picks, it's something to consider, and a lot of these picks actually are picker bans. So it'll be interesting to see who they consider here, right?
It definitely will be, and like one of the things that I begin to get a real chance to mention about the conflicting styles you can see from just on paper and the way that they've had their picks throughout their games is the playstyle difference is quite different between these two teams. When we're looking over at T2, they have a hyper aggressive style, just based off of their champ picks and what they're looking to do. They're looking to get damage done, they're looking to get it early, and they're looking to kind of just snowball the game into a position where they can do that. And if they can get that set up early with the champions that they have been picking, then they're likely to be securing some form of a vision line with their lead, and then just throwing out the picks more and more as the other team kind of struggles to kind of hold that. It's almost like them going to be choking them out from being able to do anything in the game. While on the flip side, from historically what we can see over from T5 is it almost seems that they have the reversed kind of like antithesis towards how they're going to be playing the game by taking in the pressure, holding up, and playing a much more standard game. They do have usually a jungle pick that can throw out those ganks early, but it almost kind of reflects on their champ choices in some of the stuff that they have gotten through in like their scaling mids that are control mages, outside of maybe the Katarina pick, which is a possibility to be thrown out there, and then having just kind of the ability to absorb that damage, take it back, and then just kind of throw it back at them with just an equal amount of force, if not better. Now that we are seeing all these bans put out here, it looks like an Enchanter, 2 control mages brought out with a Zac, and I guess they had lost 2 bans over on the side of T2. What are you thinking to see for this first pick here over from T5?
I mean, the fact that I like the priority actually on the Maokai. So this champion can be flexed, though. Sejanni can be flexed too. I mean, can go to the top, can go to the jungle. It's going to be locked in. Interestingly enough, that's going to be prioritized over the Maokai, who seen do so well this season. Ever since this guy has been reintroduced to the meta, the amount of CC that this champion offers, as well as just sustain in general, like even 1v1s. You try and pick an assassin, anything like that in the Maokai, you're just doomed. Getting that Resurgency Sap Magic off, going to get healing off incredible amounts. So the fact that that isn't picked up here is a little bit questionable, but it's going to be returned by MF Nautilus, and that's a really heavy engaged bot lane.
Yeah, that is something that we can expect to see some early aggression out of the bot lane with. And just like you said, not picking up the Maokai is a little questionable to me because it does really fit that playstyle that they have bringing out in these previous games over for T5. But following that up too, we've got a Kai'Sa coming out, and as to what they're going to be pairing it up with, I haven't seen too much outside of Enchanters over from the side of T5. So if we're not seeing that immediately, then we're likely to see a pair of bans over here. But at the same time, I also would like to see them. Oh, there it is. If they're going to pick it up, I'll leave my comment till later. But there's the Janna pick with the Enchanter.
So that brings a lot of safety, but it also kind of looks like you're sacking the bot lane.
Yes.
As soon as Nautilus is in the vicinity with that hook, you have to respect it. You can't walk up. The passive, you get stunned up for days. And if the jungler is going to be there, it might be the jungle or the top pick coming in third tier. Actually, okay, they actually pick up the Maokai. This team composition already is looking devastating.
It's already kind of scary for what they can kind of throw it out into, and of course that is even a flex pick as well too. Bringing that out into any one of the lanes that you're going to want to bring it out to is already insane. The biggest update that has made him kind of come back into relevancy really has been the ultimate, which is it's so fast. It is way too fast. Like they cranked that thing up. Like whatever engine he had in them before, they pulled that out and they threw in a V8 because like this is like it's creeping across the lane. Sorry, it was creeping across the lane. Now it's leaping and bounding and it's catching you out every single time. And with those opportunities, if you pull that into the jungle, like Maokai still has a good amount of opportunities to run around. Sure, his base movement speed isn't as high, but you will likely be able to see him from that angle. But once again, still a flex pick. Not sure where it's going to be picked up. As we see an Udyr ban coming out, meaning that maybe they don't want to see that in the jungle, and maybe that secures that there is that. But also, banning away the Trundle is weird to me.
I was about to touch on that actually really quickly because
that one's an odd pick.
The Trundle, what it would offer is actually if you have a big beefy frontline like the Maokai, the Nautilus, it gives you the opportunity to try and burst that down. Now you have to say if the Trundle was locked in, then you need a heavy DPS champion in the mid lane because Kai'Sa early in the game isn't really going to offer that. So they're looking for that scaling, even though Kai'Sa it doesn't scale as well as other champions. She still scales relatively well enough to do damage and try and take over that mid to late. but she's going to find it very hard. And now the Maokai Janna interaction is going to be really interesting because Janna can get
There's
her
Rek'Sai.
Monsoon out, but the Maokai can hit that ultimate from anywhere he wants. It's almost like a guaranteed Zac ultimate. As soon as you land it, everybody can collapse, and then if it interrupts the Janna, you're not going to be able to push any away, and automatically all that is kind of taken away. Well, Alawi is an interesting pick as well because it kind of synergizes with the Janna. If you get her on top of the Alawi, I mean, you get double healing going through for the Alawi, right? But it has to get to that point where the Alawi has items in order to sustain the damage that will come through from this misfortune.
I'm curious to know what their last pick. You know what? Azir would be a solid pick here, to just kind of pull out into this game. You have the late game scaling with that amount of damage, and the other portion of the curiosity is what you're going to see over from the other side. Because as I was going to say, they're already kind of full up on a lot of damage. They don't really need to pick anything consistent. But if that is a Syndra, I'm not entirely sure how this matchup goes now, but I am familiar with the Syndra and Azir matchup. Prior to her rework, Syndra was actually considered a heavy counter matchup to the Azir, but the biggest reason for it was actually because she could just, she just dropped the ball on him all the time. Like, you just popping up balls constantly. And I do know that with the change to her with their mini rework, that is not, it's not as heavy into the early game for that to become a possibility. So we might be able to see something of an even mid lane here, but realistically, I personally have not seen the matchup yet myself. So I'm very interested to see that. Outside of that, my comment over on the Trundle initially was kind of wondering why it was banned away when they had the first pick option to take the Trundle and then put it over against the Sejuani and kind of make their entire front line useless. It does make sense, though, picking up the Rek'Sai and to kind of like round out that early aggression because you're like what was mentioned. They don't really play standard, but overall, these two team comps are they are relatively even in what they can do. But I'm curious to know what your take is on them, kind of going head to head here.
So really, now that it's confirmed and everybody's locked in, it's going to be Sejuani jungle. Now, the Sejuani against the Rek'Sai is going to be, again, something to keep our eyes out for. Obviously, Rek'Sai has a lot of shift in that jungle, but the same can be said for Sejuani. So how are they going to path here? That's kind of the question that we're looking at. Are they both going to start on the red side, work their way to the top? Alawi against Maokai in the top lane is just going to be a bit of a wet noodle until those level 6s come in. And then you get those big lockdown potential damage coming through from both of the top laners. But the win condition is certainly not laying in that top side. It's mid to bot for pretty much both of these teams. And I would say even more emphasis has to go on to that Misfortune and Nautilus. The Misfortune has to get gold in this one, has to be ahead in lane. They've picked for that aggressive bot lane, and they have to make sure that it pays off, because if she falls behind, all of a sudden they're looking pretty scary on the other team here. And how do you actually deal with that? Because Azir will jump in there and just melt the Misfortune straight away, chucking it into an Alawi ultimate. I mean, they've got the Wombo, but can they pull it off, Lucan? That's pretty much it. But I think we are going to get the thoughts here. Panda, we're going to jump back to the analyst desk, and we'll see what our man has to think about how these teams have lined up here, because it's geared up, and we're certainly ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, all the research we can do, we got a couple things right, but they threw some curveballs at us, and I was actually a little interesting to see that, as much as we thought Zilean would be an interesting pick, that Zilean was left on the table, and they didn't pick it up, but they went with the Syndra with, the recent rework with the, it's like a thesis on different things you can do with Syndra. It's, a whole website on the patch notes, and but that, it's going to be interesting. I know the Maokai ult, they could throw that in. You could get MF in there and make some things happen. But yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one. I know you guys were really liking Cinnabon looking into this one, even though their comp looks pretty spicy. They are the lower of the ranks in here, so hopefully that can come out to their benefit as they get into this matchup. But I'm curious now, as we see where these things land, where do we see some of that, some of those pain points coming into this match?
I've actually got an interesting point of contention here with how the early game could play out. there's not too many opportunities that you're gonna get to grab the ADC or even the mid lane, as they're both relatively safe picks over coming from T to looking over to T5 here. Azir can just kind of make a dash away the minute he hits level 3, relatively around the same time that you're going to be hitting that gank timer. You're going to be seeing the same thing over with Kai'Sa and Janna in the bot lane, where Kai'Sa is just going to be able to speed up, run away, and then Janna's going to be able to toss up a tornado. So realistically, your main focus for that early game pressure point, at least for the Rek'Sai's point of view, is likely going to be to the top side. And you should be seeing this Alawi going relatively aggro over onto the Maokai. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that as much as Maokai does have his sap magic and he's able to kind of dish it out and heal up that damage, the early focus kind of still on the table here is definitely pointed over towards T5. And with that, we should kind of see that pressure point being built up as well, just because once Alawi gets 6, you never want to see anybody up there. that is a lane where it's like, nope, it's done. So you're going to want to secure the Maokai to have maybe a slight bit of a lead, maybe push them out, and then from there, open up the Rek'Sai to maybe take a crack at other portions of the map. The other option that he might have as well, too, is to go for the gank onto the Sejuani, because I do believe Rek'Sai's clear is faster, so maybe taking away a camp and then getting over the push with the Syndra and seeing some sort of movement up from there. But overall, it's gonna be kind of odd to get to a point or where we'll start to see stuff rolling out there. I don't know when Syndra starts to pop off with their new scaling mechanic, and overall, as if it gets to about 15-16 minutes from the side of T5, on paper, they have the better team, and it'll likely start showing in those fights around those item break points then, to where they'll start to succeed. And that's before then, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's their job to just hold off.
Yeah, target selection is going to be so huge when it comes
Yes.
down to these skirmishes and these fights. If you focus Sejuani and it's late, then you're basically just shooting nerf arrows, and Alawi too. Oh, that's a problem also. So making sure those clicks are in the right spot, and that's going to be where, team communication really is going to come to play. Is are we staggering and staging for this Drake pit? Are we, what are we doing here, and who are we going in on first? Because if they mess that stuff up, the team that takes advantage of that is going to just do the wipe.
Very,
Absolutely.
very true.
It's going to be on a nice edge. I'm really strapped in for this one. It's certainly interesting with the Syndra coming out as well. I believe I haven't even seen this champion since the rework. So this is going to be certainly interesting for me casting that. But look, guys, I guess we're going to go to a quick break. Panda.
Yeah.
We're
We'll take a
ready
quick
for this
break.
one. Yep.
We're all going to read the patch notes really quick on Syndra and learn it.
He's got a shard mechanic.
Where's
He
that
collects
cheat sheet?
shards.
So we're going to study that up real quick, and we'll be right back as we get into the Rift.
To the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up.
But I gotta say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's traded back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Big
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3v2 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before his last dies, and Chicken Fried Rice 200 Sheep with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal up. And they call comes back in the circuit, flip finds one. Can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage to Treble back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a team fight and took the victory.
the higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly,
They
still
find the
performing
Kali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out simply, tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the
They don't.
eight, and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters. And then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good death running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Good Death trying to stall time for his 80 carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big
As
Bongo
the
boys.
series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang.
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up. Come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Big
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 350 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before his last dies, and Chicken Fried Rice 200 Steve with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal him. And the call comes back in the circuit, flip finds one. Can she find two? No, she gets shut down.
Welcome back, everyone. We are back on the Rift, where we need to be for this one. Just a little bit ahead. Yeah,
a little bit of a technical issue we had to solve here.
Those technical difficulties, I mean, baby, they're nothing. We finesse them every day. Anyway, look, we have spoken so much about the matchups in this one looking. Where are your eyes being right now? And we can see Sejuani opted to start in the top side tier 2.
Anytime we're talking about the early of the game, I am always talking about the jungle positioning. And we do see Sejuani over on the blue side looking to maybe make a play over onto bot, which, I mean, does kind of make sense seeing that it is more aggro of a lane, maybe release some pressure from there. And that is one of your major points. But that being said, drop the Chalupa. Just dropped the Chalupa there.
Yeah,
like he took some damage.
Down to 50% health there. I mean, they trade the Q for Q in that one. Janna and Nautilus, but ultimately, Nautilus is going to win that if that Howling Gale is on cooldown. So Janna needs to be a little bit careful with that. You are playing for the safe lane in that bot lane. There's no reason to try and sabotage that this early, especially against MF at Nautilus lane. So they're in full control of that right now.
Especially when you were looking to, like, you were already going to be losing, getting to level 2 first. So no real reason to go too aggro over here. You're fine holding this over, but it does look like we have Sejuani popping in for the gank.
Oh, and they don't spot him. MK Beaver going to come in. Flash, Howling Gale. Going to go straight onto the Arctic Assault for the Nautilus. Permafrost should be available. It is, and claimed by Akithian Rain. It's going to be Kai'Sa first on the board with first blood.
And that is something you don't want to see this early on, seeing what we've got. But that being said, it does look like, as far as the lane's positioning here goes, we've got an option over for Blue Sox to pull out a gank either against the Azir or to the
Oh, the
Illaoi,
repeat
but
flash,
here we go.
Arctic Assault, 2 stacks on it already. Exhaust going to be dropped, but Permafrost a lot stronger than that. Oh, we see the Azir get deleted in the mid lane. The director's camera catching that one is so quick. It's a bit of a bloodfest, like you called already, looking.
Was a lot of damage. And like I mentioned beforehand, like Rek'Sai going onto the top side of the map, like Azir is kind of like the one where you can say, oh, you know, you might be able to get a gank from him for, but your other option is going to be the Illaoi. Realistically, though, you see the opportunity present itself in mid with them heavily pushing there. You're going to take that opportunity 9 times out of 10. And once again, we've got another gank coming over from this top side here, as we see Rek'Sai maybe posturing. Is he going to do anything? I don't know.
I mean, even though it's this early in the
doesn't look
game,
like it.
those tentacles are still a little bit tricky to navigate around. But we've seen that devastating repeat gank on the bot side. Drop the Chalupa, taking a lot of damage. Full combination come through from the Kool-Aid man on the Nautilus and piloting it very well. They do have a deep ward in that lane, so if any shenanigans should happen, they will see that Rek'Sai come through. As we see, oh, that's a nice dodge. Twisted advantage to get out of the test of spirit. Tori 2K knows about that one. But Illaoi going low with the mana. I mean, the wet noodle was certainly in advance here. Okay, getting
really
the corrupted
is.
pot to get the mana back. But it looks like they'll disengage. No, they still want it.
Oh, boy.
Harsh lesson. Okay, gonna
Oh, now
knock
you
him back
back
with
off,
Rumble
though.
Smash. Maokai eventually gonna walk away from that one. And both of these top laners just trading over really heavily.
It looks like Shizwani is coming up around this corner.
Oh,
though.
Dredge
Oh,
line
boy.
lands
Perfect
straight
timing.
onto the Kaiser. Okay, gonna go a little bit damage back. Nautilus gonna pay with his life for that one. MF, no summoners on this AD carry. Looks like he's gonna get stunned up by the Permafrost. Who are they gonna donate this one over? It's gonna be a double kill onto the Sejuani. Now that is a little bit questionable because Kaiser would certainly fare well from that gold, but it goes on to the jungler.
And the Kool-Aid man getting the treatment of his own name with Sejuani popping through the wall just to kind of say hello. Like, pops in, oh yeah, somebody's down. And now we've got more pressure coming over onto the Azir here, because it looks like maybe we're seeing a bit of a invade here by the Rek'Sai, but we are seeing that Syndra is definitely still winning this matchup even after the rework, at least in this specific instance. I don't know if you can take this for professional play at all, probably not, but just seeing it right now and seeing the way that it's able to throw out and dish out that damage while Azir is under turret, it really does show how much I hate that matchup before and how I'm probably still going to hate it now. What do we have going on top side here, though?
Do see Blue Sox going to come in, look for that knock up on the Illaoi. Still not level 6. That's going to be important for this gank right here, and it might cost the life of Illaoi. Actually, just pulled 6 right there, got the ult off, but it wasn't enough to channel, and they collect a freebie in that top lane. You see MK Beaver just too little, too late up there.
All right, there's one point here that I would really like to make that is kind of like a dissuasion from anything that's happened in the early portions of the game here, but there has been a bit of a problem here with what's been happening over on T5's side. All of the gold and all of those kills, minus the one that went over to the Kai'Sa, has gone onto the Sejuani. Now, normally I wouldn't have any like major issues with this, but I do believe, looking over at the gold charts, if you look at junglers back to fourth right now, they're about even in gold. They're actually 100 gold off from each other, while we've had more effective ganks coming out over by that Rek'Sai. And with that being the case, we're not really seeing anything that can actually happen significantly in those other lanes of open pressure. But here we go.
Hold
What happened
that
here?
thought. Dredge line, Howling Gale going to go down, so that augment of the Glacial going to slow everybody down. Exhaust goes on to the MF. Okay, they might pick up the Nautilus first. They do. They pick off both of the bot laners right there. Blue Sox is here. Okay, he's going to get the ultimate coming through to try and get the execute onto the Kai'Sa. Not going to be enough. Going to get peeled out, and he's going to walk away. So, great pick off for the bot lane right there of No Upon Light, and they're looking really comfortable in that 2v2.
They really are, and I mean, like, that is going to be your point that can hold that out.
Eerie.
Damn, there's a
Okay.
Syndra kill over there. Okay, so seeing what we had here, you have had a total and colossal failure out of the what was supposed to be achieved by the bot side of the map here, by Cinnabon and Kool-Aid Man. With that being the case, you now have a contention point over for the Kai'Sa, who very much scales much heavily, or much more heavier. Oh, speaking of heavier,
Oh, Scar of the Week's going to keep the Syndra nice and comfortable in that mid lane. Always got that disengage. Actually, no immovable object in the Sejuani, as she has that available to her as well. So, going to walk away with her life in that one. And Syndra's opting to play fairly well into that Azir, and it looks like really there's no changes in this matchup.
No, there really isn't. So what I was trying to mention here, though, is that the bot lane is supposed to win this aggression here, especially if you're looking to open up the map and keep up that early aggro in order to kind of open up the map afterwards. You're supposed to generally see this combo win out against the Janna and the Kai'Sa, and then push them out, keep them under tower, kind of dissuade them from being able to do anything around the map, and then open up this Nautilus to go into the other lanes and to start affecting them. With Kai'Sa and Janna winning this matchup now, as we see a gank, I'll continue that line of thought in a second.
Oh, here we go. Okay, can the Maokai survive? Permafrost goes down. Ultimate goes down from Malawi. Going to get stunned up again.
Rek'Sai.
Glacial President going to help with that one. Rek'Sai's here to try and trade over the kill. He does. She does, actually. Rek'Sai still duking it out, looking to secure the kill
proc.
onto the opposing jungler here. Does have enough. Praise Seeker is going to land, but Execute already used to secure the kill on the top side, so they trade 1 for 1. Both top laners going to eat the dirt in that one.
And with this, we keep seeing that this Rek'Sai keeps getting ahead. Now, as much as the durability patch had come through too, this was kind of the point that I wanted to mention with, I'll keep it simple here, but MF and Nautilus behind, bad, because bot side of the map is opened up, meaning that we should actually see all the dragons being brought over to the other side of the map here, and that ruins kind of the early aggression plan. Now, with that being said, all of the carries, or at least the two main carries, plus the person that's going to be able to dissuade from those carries getting completely destroyed, can just get hit by this Rek'Sai if they're ahead in order to completely destroy them before a fight even starts. And that is likely going to be the way we're going to see this as... Oh, no!
My God! The damage from the Kai'Sa. Misfortune just not respecting it at all. Dies again, 4th death of the game already, and we're only 10 minutes into the game here looking.
This
we have
is
about
ridiculous.
12 kills on the board, and they're going to drop Shelly
I
in
can't
the mid
even
lane.
talk about the constantly changing game state right now that is happening ever so swiftly. As we start to see this happening, you are seeing the reverse happen over from the side of T5 into T1 in the mid lane, because or T2. I'm not going to correct myself. Whatever. As you see Syndra winning, as you see Azir losing, as you see Kai'Sa is winning. I don't think that you give this dragon up for free, though. That being said, there's no TPs down over on these top laners here, but I do think you have a point to look towards grabbing a fight onto somebody here over for this dragon and punishing. But
I got a leap of faith. Pull up a harsh lesson. Going to get the
Wow.
reset. Okay, that's a solo kill on the top side. Meanwhile,
Oh
in the
boy.
bot, Rek'Sai is going to secure the jungle as they pick off Sejuani, attempting the steal. And that's going to be the shutdown going on to the AD carry, who's been so behind in this game so far. A little bit of life for that bot lane of T2.
I really need to question why they didn't just try to go up with a stand-up fight against them. They knew that they didn't have the pressure. It was going to be the 4v4, and they did have a stronger tank line, as well as an enchanter to be able to take care of that. There's not going to be too much damage that'll be thrown out from the bot lane for multi-target damage in that fight as well, too, and I would have given that directly over to T5 here. With them not deciding to go in and deciding to just go for the steal and stand behind, maybe it is kind of signaling of some indecisiveness from how they want to play this. And weirdly enough, that Azir decides to go in there for grabbing the minions and taking some free damage hits there. With the dragon going away, it does kind of take away my prediction that T5 should hold that bottom side of the map. Realistically, they should hold on to it, though. If you look at all of the vision that they've built up there, they have everything all set up for them to be able to kind of hold that battle line. And with them not doing it, they're not taking advantage of the advantage that they've got on that side. We are seeing, though, that Alawi is going to be a bit of a late game, or at least a mid game monster. with her getting that first item there in the Black Cleaver. Anybody who does decide to contest now, if somebody else is hovering on that side or not, Alawi is likely going to kill if you're getting ganked. And I'm kind of curious on as to if Rek'Sai is going to commit here, because they are hovering around the top side. Is it worth it? Personally, don't think so.
All right, 30 minutes into the game, and we see the gold lead is right there. No much of a difference in this one so far. Gonna see a skirmish in that top side red jungle right there. Dredgeline gonna go in on a Trainio, and Monsoon's gonna come out to try and keep the AD carry alive. Exhaust gonna be traded off on both of the AD carries here, and bullet time is not enough to keep the MF
There is
alive as
so
she
much
kills
going
the
on.
Kai'Sa. But on the top side, Sejanni is gonna fall. There we go. Shifting Sands is gonna be combined with the Emperor's Divide, but it's not enough to keep the Azir alive. 3 fall on the side of T5, and T2, they're right back in this game.
And now we've got a supportal combat situation, but I don't know if there is anything that's really going to happen out of it. But yeah, just a bloodbath all over the place. Like I mentioned before, there is no Vlad in this game, but realistically, his spirit is with us. And with that being the case, after that kind of clear out now, we are going to see mid lane open up here, meaning that some of the more neutral objectives on the map, or well, any neutral objective at this point, regardless of whether it's jungle camp and or those majors in the Baron, in the Herald, or the Dragon, are going to be available to take more freely for the side, for the red side now. It's all kind of coming out of the mid lane not getting as much attention as well too, which is kind of odd to me, considering that we do have a Sejuani that was ahead, that was able to kind of like maybe push a lead further over there, but instead was kind of ended up getting caught out a few times, although...
Speaking of caught out, Kai'Sa just gets absolutely obliterated. Syndra on top of the Rek'Sai, but Rek'Sai ultimately is going to collect that kill. Nature's
That's
Grasp,
awkward.
get outplayed, kid! As Maokai sends Alawi to the grey screen simulator. What a play, Flash Nature's Grasp, it looks good.
Now, I did want to make a mention of some of the things that were happening beforehand, and say that keeping it even is like the realistic goal for how you want to win this game if you are on blue side. If this keeps going on, though, and we do see kind of these micro mistakes and then over aggressions popping over, and maybe a bit of an overconfidence issue, we will likely see the tipping point hit over here, because you are supposed to stay even until about 16 minutes. You were initially, but now you've actually given over a 3k gold swing onto red side, where Cinnabunny Yori, who was behind before, I believe collecting shutdowns, is likely ahead in gold. If I am not mistaken, he'll actually be ahead in gold, and I can't be quite sure on that without seeing.
Yeah, about 300. It's about 300
yeah, it looks
gold
like it.
difference right now.
Yeah. So from zero to hero here, we've kind of picked up from being behind to now being about even, and with that kind of pressure dynamic now shifting, as well as mid lane being opened up, the slow kind of choking out of vision play that can happen from
hold on. Depth charge going to be dropped
Rek'Sai.
straight on Janna, but not enough to kill her. Monsoon comes out, but the Rek'Sai secures the kill anyway. Drop the Chalupa, might be next on the menu.
I don't agree with
for
this
Blue
TP.
Socks, he's going to kill the support as well. Double kill. Already claimed for the jungler. Bullet time going to go out to try and aid the jungler. That's actually going to be the triple kill as Alawi teleports into her death, and MK Beaver might be on borrowed time here as the whole squad's looking to collapse and donate a kill over to the Syndra 4-0, and now the Rek'Sai is looking huge. They turn their attention to the Dragon.
And as I was trying to mention, as all of that went down, what I was very much expecting to happen did happen, although not in quite the area where I was expecting it to. You would usually start seeing the Rek'Sai start to pop up and just one-shot somebody out of a pick from the jungle, out of vision there. But because there was actually still that aggression that was maintained by Tranio, by the Kai'Sa, and by the Janna moving too far up into the lane, like at the end of the day, sure, you're ahead, but that's still a Nautilus. Nautilus still has the ability to just press a Q button and then you're there for like 30 minutes. And in that 30-minute timeout that you're there, and Rek'Sai shows up and says, "Hey, I'm also here." So with that kind of being the case now, we're gonna start to see a little bit more of that. And the only bounce back points that we'll start to see are likely going to be once we see some bigger item power spikes coming out of these teams. With Azir being behind right now and him not having the Liandry's, they're in a bit of a power trough for being able to join up in these fights. We do have major item spikes on pretty much everybody else on the map right now, but that one point of contention does mean that it is kind of rough from blue sides right now.
Okay, that's actually really sad. Director's camera took us away, but Syndra actually stole that blue buff. That's got to feel really bad for MK Beaver, who had a really nice early game, honestly. And I mean, we're at that 18-minute mark now. We see the gold swing is going to swing directly in advantage team 2 here, who is doing a lot more proactively. Now they're back in the game. And really interesting rune and item choice coming through from the AMF. You see that Bloodthirster going to be completed. Throwback to like season 5, 6. Where that item was the first one that you're going to pick up. Meanwhile, they might pick up Blue Socks here. This is a shutdown.
That is a
Rek'Sai.
massive shutdown.
That goes over to the Alawi, so that's going to be big in these team fights, but they're giving up a lot on the bot side. But what I was going to say is her rune. She's got the overheal coming through in the Legend Bloodline. MF just looking at sustain all through these fights. No Baron to play for, but they're going to pick up the second Herald of the game.
Yeah, and with this pop-up coming in here with the Alawi getting that shutdown, I do want to make a point here and say this could be an avenue for opening up the game and kind of getting back into that state where you can stay even, but also kind of keep ahead in your leads. And I want to see a 4-1 split coming in from this Alawi. Alawi right now is absurdly strong. In fact, I don't think that she's backed yet, and she's likely sitting at about 2,000 gold. Yeah, about 1,800 gold right now. And Trainio's getting a kill. Okay. Big point here. Your Alawi is your strongest member on your team. I want to see you split push. I want to see you absolutely destroy into this top lane and start feeding over and bringing over other people to your lane, where that realistically is your strong suit. If you do that and you decide to pair everyone up, either pushing out a side lane and then doing a 4-1 push, you can get back into this game. And seeing what we've got right now, it looks like we might see at the very least a 1-3-1, but we are actually seeing the Kai'Sa come back up while Alawi's fighting over here. What are we seeing from this?
Oh, Scar of the Week goes through on the multiple. He's going to get Emperor's Divide back. Syndra might have bitten off more than she can chew, and this one is Blue Socks going to go in as well, followed up by the MF. Okay, they trade over mid laner for mid laner, and they're still wanting the fight. Blue Socks fronting for this MF. Okay, that Permafrost axe is on her, but she's managed to flash out of the way. She's going to pick up the kill onto the Sejuani. She's looking for the second kill right here. His Trainio is going to be a little low, and he's going to go over to the MF again. So Miss Fortune well and truly back into this game.
Well,
and they're still going here, but they're making a tier in the mid
massive push here. And I liked following up with the idea. I do understand where it's coming from, but it very quickly collapsed. And unfortunately, that is just because of that Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai's single target damage right now at this point in the game is absolutely absurd. And not having, I guess, the exhaust in that last fight is kind of hurting. It did kind of hurt because you do need to hold on to that at this point for strictly just the Rek'Sai. I do think that there is maybe a bit of an argument for throwing it onto the MF, but Rek'Sai right now pretty much being able to just solo.
Oh, Glacial Prison going to go down, but bullet time is available to try and negate the attack that's going to come through here from T5, but Sejuani going extremely low, actually going to die to the Syndra, but they're going to re-engage this. Dredgeline goes in, okay. Leap of Faith going to be popped by the Alawi, collects one. Kai'Sa's going to collect the mid laner on the back of that fight. Trainio going to go low, not enough to kill the MF. Too much healing coming through from this full bloodlust Miss Fortune. Collects another double kill, polished off by the Rek'Sai. That's going to be the first ace of the game, and that's going to go over to Team 2 here.
Well, that was a fight, and the results of it now are going to kind of be showing here. We're likely going to be seeing the entire base breaking open. And with that being the case, there's a little bit of a lack of hope that I'm holding on to for the ability to grip in back into this game for T5. They had a strong idea with everything they were doing here, but there's constant fighting going back and forth where they're just looking to I guess get back into the game that realistically they're not too far behind in. For it's a lot of issues are with the target selection. Coming in through every one of these fights, you need to be focusing down or at least looking for that flank that's going to be happening from the Rek'Sai. And if you can pull that in, then you'll kind of be able to sweep through the fight. After that, you'll be looking for the Syndra, and I'm not seeing that right now. And we're not seeing the split focus, or we're just kind of seeing a split focus happen here as, oh god.
Illaoi, okay, the tilt is finally set in. See, Soul Point going to be collected up. It is going to be an Ocean Soul in this game, which is even more devastating. And now we cast our eyes to that gold lead. We're almost at 10,000. Actually, I think we are over that, 10.3.
It is a bit of an insurmountable lead at this point. And where all the gold is kind of focused in is all across the board, too. Especially when you look towards the Rek'Sai here. You've got a 12k to 7k gold disparity here. You've got essentially a 4 or a 5k gold lead difference. Coming out of that Rek'Sai, able to just one-shot pretty much anyone on the map at this point now, actually. I think the only argument that you might be able to use is that maybe you can't kill Illaoi, but we actually have seen it numerous times here that Rek'Sai is able to 1v1 and destroy the Sejuani through all of those resistances. And at that point now, you've essentially got your glass cannon that can just kind of pop somebody and then just kind of walk away, and you've passively won the fight. There's a lot more that is likely going to be happening from this point in terms of the aggression to get back into it, but I do want to say that with both inhibs open, it is looking kind of grim.
Yeah, T2, just say we're going to march in your base, collect both inhibitors, and we're going to walk away. Cool guys don't look at explosions, and that's exactly what they just done there. They're taking full advantage of the game state, as so you should. Because they gave over so much in that early game, but ultimately it just doesn't matter at this point. The MF is huge. The Syndra, the disengage is huge. And then on top of that, you have to worry about that execute coming through from the Rek'Sai. But speaking of execute, there was a Janna there, but the Janna isn't there anymore.
Why are you there, Janna? I get that it has like 15 health, but you deal like 5 damage. That's 3 autos. I don't know if this is the greatest idea to collect that. I do kind of understand the incentive there. Yes, there is the bounty over onto those towers, but you are not the champion to be bringing that over there. That is for sure. You have no vision whatsoever on the map. You have a single pink ward that I can see over in Tribrush. Over on your side behind the dragon, and nothing else. You have no idea, and it's just handing over a little bit more gold.
All right, we might see a fight here. Okay, now Upon Light's going to be in the middle of it. Leap of Faith going to be popped and shut down the Misfortune. That's huge. The DPS has gone from the team fight. Still, Hush Listen is bashing down on a T2 here. The Kool-Aid Man is going to secure the kill on the Illaoi, and they're going to turn their attention to the Rek'Sai. Now can't get out of that one. The Unburrow not available, not even close to getting out of that one. Okay, Voice Seeker going to land. Will the Killer Instinct come through? Because it is online for the Kai'Sa. She says no, and they're going to disengage after that small skirmish. And ultimately, T5, they bite back in this one.
There is too many fights to understand why there is too many fights. The amount of times that they keep going in is insane. And one of the points that I want to bring up here as well, too, is we see that the kills were being grabbed up by the wrong people over onto this on the red side here. We actually had the Nautilus collect the bounty, I think, if there was one, over onto the Illaoi, and everyone piling onto the Illaoi was a huge mistake, because the minute that happened, we started seeing everyone kind of just getting bashed down and having all the resistances shredded, while everyone's kind of starting to pick up. Now, as much as I was saying that it was grim before, I'm going to flip my stance on this one more time and say that we are, in about 4 minutes, going to see the full potential of what this team can dish out in terms of their damage. Their item breakpoints are definitely getting to there, and once we see the full 2 items, or I guess 2.5 items, picked up for everyone here, and we're transitioning into the 3-item stage for blue team. Oh man, there's a lot of pain that will be able to be dished out, because we've kind of been seeing a little bit of a plateau for how much can be done over onto Red Side's team. If they do not close out this game with this next Baron, I do want to say that they could be in for a lot of trouble.
Well, they are looking to secure the Baron here on spawn, but that 20-second Drake for the Soul is going to be available very shortly here, and it's certainly going to change the aspect of the game. But the Baron power play is now online. Can they close out that last lane in that top side? They certainly have prio. That lane is crashing, so eventually it will make its way down to that inhibitor turret right there, but we're going to see a skirmish. Okay, they find the Sejuani. Howling Gale going to go down, but drop the Chalupa is just going to get melted. No! They interrupt the power tank, but it doesn't even matter. The amount of damage that's coming out here is just unbelievable. Double kill actually goes over to the MF on top of that, polished again by the Rek'Sai. They interrupted the ultimate, but it still wasn't enough.
And that realistically should be the game here after that kind of takedown. We're not hoping to see any other plays because if we do, they will kind of be few and far between. With 14 seconds coming up on the Janna, I'm going to say that these towers are gone. But what I will say of these, I did like the game plan here coming in from T5. It was just the execution heading over from the early mid and getting yourself to that mid-late game was not there. So with that being a closeout there, I guess we'll bring it back and maybe have a quick discussion about that afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, a pendulum, a completely bloody pendulum. I mean, just being whacked about the entire rift. And it was looking really, really good for No Upon Light early on, especially in that bot lane. The Janna Tornadoes, they had so much control. But man, oh man, Rek'Sai just assassinating. There was a fight at the end. They got rid of MF early, and they had to leave. And you just got to wonder if they could have targeted MF earlier in all of those bloody fights, would this have looked a little bit different?
No, you're spot on, because there was maybe, I think, 2 or 3 fights where they just ignored the 0 and 4 MF, and it's understandable why you would. But Misfortune at level 6 offers so much DPS damage, and even if she KS's some of those kills in those heavy skirmishes, she gets paid for it. She's going straight to the bank, and she was walking all the way to the bank, straight into that mid lane, even though she gave up the laning phase. Ultimately, it didn't even matter. Syndra had full control in that mid lane. Their macro was pretty damn good. They fixed kind of the mistakes that they've seen in that early game, and they were in the right place at the right time. And it has to be said as well, the Maokai kind of falling against the Alawi 1v1. Should that happen? Probably not, because you know the Alawi is going to go aggressive anyway, and then you get that tested spirit. It's going to be obnoxious to play against, sure, but you have so much sustain. Just don't fight. You're on probably weak side. Actually, we kind of had to. We had to draw it back a couple of times because we were trying to figure out who's on weak and who's on side, strong side here, because the weak side was winning and the strong side was actually losing. So both of these guys were coin flipping the lane states, and do you know what? It made for a really interesting game. And you know, if that's anything to live up to game 2, then we are certainly in for a series.
It definitely shifted the power dynamic of what should have happened. That's for sure. The only one that really kind of held in place on how it realistically was going to play out, even though it was kind of a question based off of the rework, was the Syndra and the Azir, in which, man, that was a rough one to watch with the constant pressure under tower and then opening it up from there. I do think that if we're going to go back just for a quick moment here about what some of the issues were in those fights, though, it was 2 major issues that we saw over from blue side that if they can shore those up and work on those, it'll be the night and day difference based off of what they're trying to achieve. They had a front-to-back team fight comp, and it was their positioning of where they were setting up initially, as well as who they were choosing for their targets. If they had not gotten into those situations where they were kind of backed over into a corner, or they're stuck over in some form of a hallway, they wouldn't need to worry too much about that MF. But a lot of the areas where they were finding themselves fighting, or where they had ended up taking them, were very tight spaces that led them to need to focus down the multi-target user, as opposed to the single-target users that were able to burst out their champions in the first place. And if you can shore up and get yourself into a favorable position for those fights beforehand with the type of team comp that you seem to have at least drafted for this game, then you can and you will end up winning afterwards. But it was a combination of a snowball of effects coming from that, mispositionings, and kind of very much going into areas where you shouldn't. that led to that victory. But at the same time, when you're playing in the dark, you're not really sure where you are in the first place, and Sometimes stuff happens. So
Yeah, on that too, one of the things that really just led to the Cinnabon win is they survived just long enough in those side lanes that those turrets weren't cracked until 20 minutes. And it was that gave mid lane enough of that short lane, that extra power, that winning condition of having that mid lane discrepancy in that rank. That is what they I mean, I don't know if they just said, listen, y'all, just don't let the tower go down. You can even die. One of you can die in bot lane. That's fine. And that happened several times, but they could not get past the minion wall and they couldn't do anything against those towers. So if that is what, I mean, that is where it started to really go wrong. They just couldn't break down that defense faster than Rex could go down the mid lane. So, but this is a best of 3.
it is.
So, I mean, anything can change in the next one. 2 more band picks or bands coming out as well, so that could change things too. So we'll find
Very much
out in
so.
just a few minutes. We'll go on break. See you in a bit.
Back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up.
But I gotta say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same song.
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before his last dies, and Chicken Fried Rice to team with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal him, and they call comes back in the shuriken flip, finds one. Can she find 2? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage to Tree back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a teamfight and took the victory.
The higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly, still
find
performing
Akali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out, simply tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the lead, and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo Boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters, and then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good depth running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Good Death trying to stall time for his AD carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big
As
Bongo
the
Boys.
series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up. Come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3v2 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before he's last. Dies, and Chicken Fried Rice 200 Chief with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal up. And they call comes back in the circuit, flip finds one. Can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage to Treble back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a teamfight and took the victory.
The higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly, still
find
performing
Akali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out simply, tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact spawn.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the ace, and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo Boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters, and then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good depth running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9k HP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Good Death trying to stall time for his 80 carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series. It seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big
As
Bongo
the
Boys.
series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen Recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I hope you got some water, popcorn. We're in for a good one. We think we're going to 3. I don't see why not. As long as there's a few little things that these teams can clean up, then this next one could be just as much a bloodbath, or we're going to see some people put down some walls and try to ride this thing out. But
I'm gonna make a stupid comment real quick. Can I ask what is water popcorn?
Water popcorn?
Yeah.
Water or popcorn, your choice.
Okay.
Best of
I
both worlds,
was
baby.
imagining you just taking a bowl
Popcorn in
of
the water.
popcorn and then
Just
just
pour
like
the
just
popcorn
dipping
into
it in
the water,
water.
yeah.
And it's like soggy popcorn, right?
Efficiency. It's all about
Oh,
efficiency.
yeah.
Nasty.
So, yeah, I mean, we were trying to figure out what's going to happen. My understanding is I think the players are actually ready to get into the draft, so we can head over that whenever we are ready. But yeah, we're all very curious as to see how this one's going to shore out and shape up. Especially now, I think we got 2 extra bands coming, or at least those original bands are going to be coming in for all the teams this time around.
And that might make a difference, honestly. I mean, bands always make a difference. Let's be honest.
Very true.
They had the pick of the litter, and most certainly it's going to be even more important in this one now. What do you want to see change here, looking? What do we want to see from both sides? Because there's going to have to be a reaction to what the draft is going to be, and at the same time you have that momentum to try and just win the game again, right? So what are we going to see from both teams here? Where do they change it up, if anywhere?
Okay. So I was kind of briefly talking about this during the break. Lem, you can agree with me here.
I agree.
Thank you. So yeah, we don't even need to talk about it then. I think that T2 definitely has the ability to just swing the entire game based off of their jungle pick. And like, if as long as you are going to give some of the main champions over to that jungle pick, you're likely going to see the same strategy being applied, or at least you're going to see the ability to bring the team together just from that ahead position. Now, whether or not that means that we are going to see the bans coming in for them and throwing out the Rek'Sai or throwing out the Shaco, although I really want to see Shaco, so leave that one open, or the Elise. It would be amazing. I'd be so happy to see it, regardless of if it doesn't work or if it works. I'm just happy to see him just hop around the rift. I do think that not like allowing that in this draft and not allowing oh man, I'm awful for names on these here, but not allowing that jungle pick to be able to grab agency in the early game to be able to carry the rest of his team over into the late. It is going to be key here, not just from a draft perspective, but even just from the pick perspective and how you're going to be handling it. Whether or not that means that you want to pick a safer jungler or you want to have priority in all of these lanes is going to be the biggest portion here. But we are definitely seeing that Syndra is not wanted. They do not want to see that again.
And they have to. I mean, that was a staple for the whole game. That's kind of where the momentum shifted. The Azir just didn't get to play the game. And if you're going to take the Azir, then you take away the Syndra. Do you know what? It's a skill matchup, all being said. But the Syndra, honestly,
is another point.
The scatter of the weeks were on point. And now that the MF is banned here, so it's important to note as well that T2, Cinnabon, Sayori is still going to lose 2 bans because of the late substitute. So that's going to carry over into this game as well. So that makes it even more exciting because we're going to see a lot more champions let through. Now, final ban being the Zac. But like I touched on, this MF being banned puts a lot of highlight onto the AD carry role.
Rek'Sai pick.
Well, I mean, this is understandable. The Rek'Sai did so well in that game for Blue Sox, just everywhere. The executes were on point. Nothing was preemptive. But again, the AD carry role. So the MF being banned opens up a gateway for Caitlyn, opens up a gateway for Sivir. Another one has been Jinx. Now the Kai'Sa kind of falls into that same category, except the Kai'Sa doesn't really has as much say in the game as these other champions that I've already mentioned. And if you do want to play for priority, Caitlyn is the one to go for.
But we're actually seeing what is essentially, it seems to be the salty run back so far.
Run back.
Oh boy.
Strapping.
What are we doing? Where are we? Everybody put your seatbelts on.
Play it until it wins, baby. We're going full Bronze Woodstock 7.
As far as it goes, I also can't really blame them in that fashion either, though, because what they had going on in the early game, it was working for them. It was just a lot of mistakes that they had made over into the mid. So I can definitely sympathize with them there. But if you are going to be showing this up immediately, you can definitely expect in the second rotation of the bans, they're not going to allow the exact same game plan to happen, which does mean we're likely not going to be seeing the Azir unless you were wanting to pick it up here. That being said, we do have Sivir being picked up, meaning that there is going to be even more damage at a later point in the game, and that they can just keep pushing in that bot lane over and over again. Now, do you pair it with the support, or do you grab it with something that you want as a larger priority pick for affecting the map? Although that is a Yuumi. So even if you wanted to take the same strategy that you had from last time, bringing in the Yuumi with the Sivir is, late game wise, is disgusting. It is terrifying to see that combo kind of coming around a corner and joining any form of a team fight, because if she gets to that point where she has those 3 items, your entire team is gone because they decided to hit your tank. So
yeah,
that is scary already. What do they match it up with? What do you think?
I mean, Yuumi is definitely a champion that I have zero respect for, right? The amount of additional AD that comes through, the healing, the movement speed, everything this champion offers, all while just sitting back, kicking back, and enjoying the spectate mode end game is absolutely ridiculous. And on Sivir, if anybody's been watching Worlds, you know how the LPL really likes this pick. LCK actually been running it a few times as well. And Sivir Yumi is really a bot lane that you have to go aggressive on. So now I kind of want to shift to what the Kai'Sa can be paired with. I really like the Leona here.
Because we also have a Kayn picked up too, which is another point that we're gonna have to bring up when we see some of this other stuff.
I mean,
like that is a whole other ballpark on as to where it's going. Because there at this point, like it could be top lane. I really don't know honestly if you're gonna be keeping Sejuani over there or if it is gonna be the jungle, and then how it's gonna be paired up, because currently there isn't too many tanks over on the side of T2 either, so there's also that open possibility there. We really should see a support pickup, probably here. It would make the most sense just out of the draft to be able to grab it, since you already see it. But what are we going to see is another good question, because I don't necessarily think that you're going to want an enchanter at this point into that combo. No, you are going to want something that is aggressive.
That's even better.
That kind of works as well too. In fact, I think that is the better pick. Although the one that is more exciting is always going to be Blitzcrank, and I am sad that you flashed that in front of me and got me so hyped up, only to just bring all my hopes and dreams crashing. I am sad. That being said, Renata is fantastic already into this comp, and if we do start to see some answers, they're basically not going to be allowed to be auto attack based at all. Otherwise, you're literally just shooting yourself in the foot. We do have a Poppy coming out over for the top side of the map. Depending on what that goes into, it looks good. But now I do have some concerns here. I'm wondering, for one, what we're going to be seeing to match in the mid lane, as we're likely going to be seeing that brought over. And if this is Ahri, we do have early game presence that can kind of roam around with the Rek'Sai, and I do believe that the strong point of T2 is their mid-jungle combo. With that being said, what do you bring over to mid lane that is going to be able to bring in push and make it so that if Ahri does decide to step out of lane and does decide to leave, that it is a mistake for her? That is, honestly, Vex is actually a very good pick here. I actually really like this one to be picked up. Looking at what they have in the first place too, it does kind of dissuade the Rek'Sai from even bothering to go into the mid lane. I myself have been a victim of deciding to dive a Vex and only to find out that she took like maybe a quarter of her health while I am dead and I am gone, and it was a bad idea, and now I feel ashamed of myself.
Well, it's the one thing that they have, right? Now Vex is really good into champions that can't disengage, right?
Yeah.
There's no big CC that's going to come through apart from the Poppy. And I mean, if you can time the Umboro against Vex in that fear, I mean, you're probably already feared before you even come out of it. So that's something to keep an eye on, that interaction. But again, it's the best of both worlds. They got that Renata. That disengage can just change the team fight. They don't want to fight, you press hostile takeover. You send the opposing team way back, you just walk it out. Now, the one thing that I kind of have doubts over is the Kayn. The Kayn, for me, against Rek'Sai, I mean, sometimes it takes Kayn way too long, and a lot of Kayn's actually emphasize their form over actual early game playing ability in terms of ganking for their lanes. So if he wants to go red, which most Kayns do, and in this case, I mean, there can be an argument, honestly, for going blue in this one. The Ahri, the Sivir, Yumi is going to be a champion, of course, but you need to get through that Poppy. Poppy becomes a big problem, and it's something that you have to maybe fight front to back on, but you also have the Kai'Sa that can dive into that back lane. So there's a lot of micro things they have to think about in these team fights. And really, if Kayn wants to be as proactive as the Rek'Sai, he has to be, actually, because in game one, really, it was about that Sejuani. So we know that MK Beaver can do this. But now seeing him on a champion like Kayn, there's more risk rather than reward. And if the risk pays off, it's going to prove big for his team, and we could be looking at a 1-1 series here.
So, and this is kind of where I'm also interested in pointing this out too. I don't know how to look at these teams in a lens that's not warped in how they're going to play this game out, because it's very much the same story as the first game, where T2 has everything in their power to do things, but it is strictly for the early game and then carrying them to the late. Now, that being said, I do have a bit of a problem with their choices for how they would manage the late game fights, because if they do, not just talking about mid late, but to, like, true late game, yes, you have a Sivir and you have a Yuumi. Now, those champions usually want to play front to back, but you have what I believe would be an assassin Rek'Sai, who's likely going to be looking for a flank, and then you have this one tank that can kind of hold people back, sort of, from jumping forward, that will likely get bursted out by the damage that I would assume to see from T5, with an Ahri that's also looking to be positioning around as well, too. You've got two champions that are looking to kind of skirt around the edges of fights, while one's looking to play front to back, with one person that's on top of him healing him, and the other one that's kind of just the solo tank on the team. I don't like the way they play fights in a 5v5 versus T5. Now, that being said, if they avoid doing those fights, and they just dance around and look to pick people off by taking creative positioning, because we do know that T5 had an issue with positioning in that first game, they should be able to kind of close that out there. But on paper, once again, if I look at all the champions over on T5 side and how they're going to handle up to them over into the mid game, man, I would not want to be T2. You are going to have to do a lot more work on T2's force by looking over at them versus them. You're looking at everybody on their team just runs at you, and then they press their R ability, and then they're pretty much set up for the most part. And over on T2s, there's a lot more mechanical skill that will be required. Are they going to be able to pull it out? And are they going to be able to put it together? I'd like to think that they could, but we'll have to wait and see where that really goes.
Well, do you know what? I know a man who wants to get comments in on these team composition. It's going to be Panda. We're going to go right back to the analyst desk and get the analysis of my man, because look, we're in a bit of a pickle here. The Kayn comes out, okay. If the Kayn goes and makes life hard for that Poppy and sets her so far behind, where's the front line for this team?
Yeah, this one's interesting because some would argue that T2 is just going 4 into 5 with the Yuumi. I mean, yes, the buffs are nice, and that's really great. But one of the things we definitely saw in the last matchup is that early game bot lane, now upon light, okay, not a problem. And if they can keep that pressure up this time and maybe capitalize on just dominating in the bot lane and not letting Sivir and Yuumi come online, then that could be what was last game. They were able to hold off that onslaught. If they can't do that again this game, that bot side's going to crack. And that's going to be what I think is interesting. They're playing. They played well last time, just holding off the water while they could let mid lane do its thing. But this is maybe a little bit more of a dicey. Let's see what we can do to mix things up, because I think they might have gotten our playbook on the last matchup. So we're gonna have to mix things up and see if they can compete with it.
I think it's going to be a lot of emphasis, honestly, on the roams coming through from mid lane. Looking, I don't know what you think about this matchup too. The Aryan and the Vex. Now, it's really like a gentleman's agreement lane. For both of these champions, they'll farm up. I would be very surprised if the solo kills actually come in for either of these champions. I think there's a lot of outplay potential, and trying to influence those side lanes is going to be even more important in this one, because like we already said, so that Poppy is the sole front line for this team, and if the Poppy falls behind, then your team's just going to get melted. They got a Kaiser, they got a Renata that can turn you against. They got so much CC on that team, and if
they have the getaway button this time,
you got AOE beyond belief.
They didn't have it last time.
Yeah,
they didn't have an escape.
If I am T5 in this position here, I am making sure that I am not playing too aggressive for the early ganks coming from the Rek'Sai, because I see in no world that this Rek'Sai does not decide to just camp the Vex early on, at least for their first two ganks. Like, grab the flash first gank, like make sure that you pull in that aggro, and then afterwards you go back for that repeat gank, and then from there you give agency to the Ahri to be able to push out and roam around with the Rek'Sai so that you can affect that Kayn more. Now, if that doesn't happen, and we do see some other form of a gank happen somewhere else, I think it's a mistake. I really don't think there's in any world where that it's not a good idea to at least open up this Ahri through Blue, like for Blue Sox to open up the Ahri to be able to roam around with him so that they can delay the Kane's form and so that they can get that early kind of spike happening, because it doesn't matter if you get Sivir ahead. Realistically, you're fine keeping them on an island and like them just farming for the first like 20 minutes of the game, honestly. There's like what is really to be gained there? There is something to be said about being to gain the map presence early on to hold everything and then kind of keep that lead like they've kind of done in the past in these ones here. Because if you do, once again, if you do and the other team decides to do something with them not receiving any pressure, if you do hold that early game or if you just stay even, this game once again it goes champ-wise over to T5. And I don't think that you can risk it this time as well, because you don't really have as much of a fallback plan with an Ahri. Ahri is not really the same kind of control mage that Syndra is. She's not doing nearly as much damage, and she's definitely not having as much control over a fight. You get one E, which is your one target that you kind of select to say, oh, you're not in this fight for a little bit here, and they're likely going to get popped. You don't get to stun half the team. You don't have half as much AoE. Like
I'm just looking at this and thinking back the first early 10 minutes of the last game. Janna throwing out tornadoes created target selection issues in the bot lane. They don't have target selection issues in the bot lane right now.
No.
They have one target. So all they have to do is do what they did in the last game and just focus the cat riding on Sivir. Now, can Sivir shove the wave and like make it complicated? Sure, the overextension is actually what led to all of the early game wins for Now Upon Light. And so now Cinnabon is just saying, okay, you had to choose between Nautilus and MF last time, and sometimes you got it right a couple good times early. Just focus one now. And I'm curious if that's gonna play into the play, because Now Upon Light was very aggressive early on. And if Yuumi can't come online and save Sivir, or they can't back out, or Rek'Sai can't come in, I think it might start cracking earlier in the bot lane. That's where I'm going to be watching this one.
Well, just to quickly finish that thought, so the important thing for that bot lane right now is summoner choice. You want to see a cleanse coming through from the Sivir, pop that on top of the spell shield as well. Makes it very hard for you to actually get locked down there, and gives you that ability to scale. Now, Sivir will lose that matchup very early because the mana becomes an issue to try and clear these waves, but once she's got one or two backs off, accompanied by the Yuumi, it becomes really difficult for Kai'Sa and the Renata. Now, the best thing about the Renata is the bailout. The kit on this champion is so broken. I think it's game-changing no matter what game state it is in. Objective control it offers. It offers a lot of lifeline for your team as well in these 5-on-5 skirmishes. So definitely eyes are all going to be on that bot lane.
5-on-5. That's cute. 5-on-4. Let's 5-on-4.5.
Yeah. 4.5. Yeah, well, I mean, like actual champions in the field.
It's a champion.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Like, you got
love the Yuumi
like the
pick.
Sivir is like a 1.7 when you have a fully powered up Yuumi. So I mean, like,
I love seeing the Yuumi come out, because it's just going to add something fun. And again, just like last game was exciting to watch, I think this one's going to be exciting to watch for a whole different round of reasons. But we don't actually have to wait that much longer to watch it. I believe everyone's getting ready to load up into the Rift. We're going to take a real quick break, and when we get back, we'll see the action going down.
Back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a bang. Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up.
But I gotta say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before his last dies. and Chicken Fried Rice to his teeth with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal him. And then Kong comes back in the Shuriken Flip, finds one. Can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage retrieval back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later.
To the Thunderdome. I couldn't think of what we were called for a second, and then I remembered we're Risen Esports. So
I mean, if it's anything to go out with the first game, it's definitely going to be a Thunderdome with both of these guys. But look at the mutual respect coming out this early in the game. Everybody on that defensive stance don't want to try and get any cheese in this one. And yeah, Yuumi, that's a champion, dude. We're going to be seeing what that cat is going to be attached to for most of this game.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just expecting it to be attached to Rek'Sai if Rek'Sai gets ahead, and then we're just going to see Rek'Sai kind of stomp over everyone, because at a certain point, I don't think that you're really going to see anything happen on the bot side of the map. At least you really shouldn't, in the favor of T2, because I don't think that you let them get away with playing a scaling enchanter lane here for free when you have the aggro push. And it does look like we're likely going to see either another top or mid gank once again, and I'm calling it right now. I want to see the Vex die. Like it needs to happen. There needs to be some form of pressure over there, and I don't know how else we're gonna see the map open up from the side of T2 here if that does not happen. Although apparently Vex is deciding to already take half her health and damage.
Yeah,
That,
interesting.
to
One
me,
was
is a
to trade
mistake.
that over the electrocute. I mean, it gets very tense in that lane, very volatile as well. So you don't want to give anything over. You try and keep it a mutual stance between them right here, and you try and just go into that mid game with relatively high health. But look at both of these mid laners down to 25% health. They're just juking it out. Oh my god,
they've got it out for each other at this point. He's like, remember when you were playing Syndra? This is what you did to me.
Oh,
but at the same time, he's oh man, whoa,
Ignite's
whoa,
going to go down
whoa.
by the Sejuani right here. Poppy's going to walk away. MK Beaver is here to back him up. Flash going to be exhausted by that top laner. Right there's Kane's going to come across. Okay, can he get anything down? The orbs will be there. We're going to get stunned up into the wall, but now Sejuani just takes the tank of the turret shot. For what reason? First blood goes over to the Poppy. They're WinCon online, and I tell you who isn't online anymore. It's going to be Vex to drop in that mid lane.
There wasn't even an assist on the Rek'Sai. Oh man, what have we got happening?
Drop the Chalupa, going to drop the exhaust onto the Sivir, but Yuumi is a champion. Prowling projectile going to go back, going to get tagged up by both sides of that blade coming through from the Sivir. So even trade all in all, but now we are seeing that one win condition with the Poppy is the front face of this team, and she's already ahead.
Yeah, and everything that I had mentioned before about, you know, if they hold their own and they'll have the agency to just kind of like take control of the map beyond fit. That is all out the window now. Things have changed very rapidly by already giving the kill over to that Ahri and already having a Poppy ahead. I was kind of expecting I mean, we really realistically should always be expecting that the Kayn is just going to be pathing towards topside so he can get his form. There's nowhere else he really wants to go to grab this. There's nowhere else that he can kind of grab it. So he's forced into that position where he needs to go there in order to get that. Now, that being said, there was a bit of a misplay there, and I really wish we could grab a replay of that, where Sejuani just decided to walk under tower while it wasn't targeting anyone. And took the
just forgot about that minion wave where the minions griefing.
I'm not blue side this time. I like it didn't exactly work in their favor there. But with that swing happening now, you've got to just set up to even out the issues that were going to exist if nothing happened in this game.
Oh, now upon light, it still wants to duke it out with the Poppy, and obviously that Tori 2K has the number of the Sejuani in this one.
That is a big minion wave, though.
Still trading with her. Okay, going to get stunned into the wall. That's the combo that kills you. Now upon light, going to go down and eat the dirt. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Fafnir's going to get charmed up by the Ahri. This might be a second kill onto that mid lane carry, and it certainly is. Great play coming through, and honestly, T2 running away with it already.
This is not what you want to see if you are a T5 fan. I am sorry, but to start out this way into this game is that you are taking a position that you would have had a very strong advantage into, and you are probably taking on, honestly, the two areas that were the weaknesses from T2 and turning them into the strong sides. And to me, that is already not a great kind of function to look at here. We are having Kayn pop in and look at a bit of a jungle invade. He's not really getting anything for it. It looks like he's just going to be grabbing the wolves and hopefully not being thrown to them either here. After the last gank kind of didn't succeed here, he does need to get his form, and I'm not too sure how far away he's going to be from it at this point.
I do believe there's no way of actually checking that on the Kayn, which is
looking at
unfortunate
that.
for us. Otherwise, we'd be super interested to see. But I can tell you the MK Beaver is behind in that form. I mean, usually the form comes in at the 12 to the 15-minute mark, and not really on the pace in this one. We see Rek'Sai already proactive, and Kayn kind of putting all the eggs in one basket in that top lane. You have another 2 lanes, and you don't have to be so zoomed in on that Darken evolution when you can go to these other lanes. You can get your blue form and then wait a couple minutes to get your red form coming through. But we'll see how that jungle matchup develops, as Kayn's going to get the first back. It's going to be the second back. Going to pick up the tier to help with those jungle clears. But ultimately, the Rek'Sai, very proactive. Blue Sox feeling super comfortable in this game.
Yeah, he's kind of got his pickings at wherever he wants to go now, because the 2 lanes that he needed to get ahead are already ahead at 7 minutes. And with that being the case, now he can just kind of say, well, you know what? Originally, at the beginning of this game, I would not have considered
it. Is coming. Drop the Chalupa is going to
But
eat the exhaust straight onto the
now it's an
Renata.
option.
Knockup's going to go into Trainee. He has to flash to get away. And the alcove is just a massacre. And you can better believe under the turret, it's going to be the same thing. Ahri, Rek'Sai in that bot lane, making things happen. 3-0 for Woods 7 League in this game.
Yeah, and that's the cookie crumbles on that side as well too, because like was mentioned before, we kind of see a gank from any lane at this point now, and any option is the correct option. You've got Poppy needing to expend ult to just push everyone off the wave. You've got time being wasted over on the Vex. Realistically, we might want to see some sort of a push into the jungle to grab some vision, but right now we are going to have to look at what are the options for Red Side to get back into this game, because they are now on the back pedal pretty heavily.
It feels pretty tough, and the fact that Tori 2K got the roam actually coming to the Poppy, just has to use Keeper's Verdict, and then it's all just for nothing. Manages to reset the wave, actually gets to push, so that wave is going to crash in that top side turret, so that's going to bounce back to the Poppy, so it's feeling even better for Tori 2K up in that top lane there. Definitely has the number of Now Upon Light, unfortunately for the Sejuani, and we just keep seeing these trades across the board, and really it's coming down to that vision war that cost that bot lane their lives, and the early pinks are certainly proven to be the undoing of the bot lane of T5 here, and it feels very repetitive of game 1.
Yeah, and I think the flip side of this here now too is, now that you can kind of see where the pressure points are kind of arriving, in your mind, you want to be collecting those shutdowns. You want to be able to grab those kills from those areas and kind of maybe swing the favor back over towards you.
Oh, they're looking at collapse on Poppy now.
That, though, and we're probably going to see something in regards to it soon.
One more, we'll get the permafrost, stuns up the Poppy. Okay, Kayn's going to go in as well. Umbral Trespass going to be available, goes in, gets the damage. Okay, he's going to get the blade. Oh, he gets stunned into the wall, and it's shut down onto the Poppy, so that's huge for the Kayn, getting the orbs and getting the gold for that gank attempt right there. Execute's going to come through from the Rek'Sai, and Now Upon Light might face the same fate as his opponent laner. Yep, that's going to secure the kill right there. Blue Sox so proactive on the Rek'Sai. Again, first kill of the game for him though.
And this is the point that I wanted to make on that Rek'Sai. I think that even if you are going to be throwing a gank over towards the gank onto the Poppy. Even if you are going to be throwing a gank over onto that Poppy, Poppy is generally going to be the champion that will be able to turn it around and at least grab something back, or they're getting out of there. And then you've got the same thing over on the other person who's fed on the map there too. It's Ahri. Ahri gets ganked, you're just running away. You're pressing your R button, you're chilling.
Speaking of Ahri, she's here. Can they get this low? And Hostile Takeover is going to go down, but Trino gets actually charmed up. Final Chapter going to secure the kill. Bailout just not enough to keep the Renata alive. Double kill goes over to the hard scaling Sivir. Already in this game, we're only 10 minutes in, and we're looking at about a 3,000 deficit, almost 4,000. See Blue Socks making his way back up to that top side. The Sejanni looking juicy and free. Will they get the kill though? Okay, they're going to go for it. Keeper's Verdict. Going to be short channel to knock up the Sejanni. And of course, they're going to pick that one up. 4-1 on the Poppy. And Tari 2K having the game of his life in the series.
Very much so. And we're seeing kind of the plan crumble slowly but surely. Actually, I can't even say slowly. It's happening pretty fast now at this point. And we're seeing a lot of things happening that are very similar to what we saw last time, but they're also kind of based around this one issue around the picks. When we saw mid and top fall, the jungle choice and the way that you're going to be having to get back into those games is going to be from ganking the two champions that are going to be ahead from there, because you're not realistically going to be able to do anything from the bot side of the map. They're already looking to kind of absorb the pressure in the first place. In fact, every champion on the side of T2 can absorb a pressure fairly well. And with that pick on the Kayn, you're gonna want to get your form soon, so just you can get to the point where you're able to even properly gank. But going up against the Rek'Sai, you're not really getting that option at all. You're gonna be coming into those lanes, you're gonna be grabbing a couple orbs, you know, scratching your back a little bit, and then going back into the jungle. And we've seen that time and time again at this point now. Now the shutdown may have come through, and the gold may be onto the Kayn there, but at the end of the day, the gold isn't going to matter so much as the actual damage and the form that you can grab onto the Kayn from getting that form. And even if we do see a gank here, well, what's happening here as we see a collapse done?
Oh, the roam coming through from Ahri is going to find the Kayn, so knows they're in waiting. Steadfast Presence is going to be combo straight into the wall. Sejanni going to fall again in this one, 0-5 on that board, feeling really unlucky. They're going to go 2v2 right now. Final Chapter is going to be popped, but it's going to go into the minion wave as Shelly joins the fray. That'll be enough to tank the turret, and Blue Socks is certainly in the vicinity on Burrow. Okay, going to be flashed away, return with the flash, going to be traded over. Secures the kill with the execute. Yes, he does, but goes under that second tier in the bot lane. They're just running them down everywhere, all over the map. And right now, T2, they're running away with the game. As Tari 2K back in action, and that's another death onto the jungle.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's just falling apart. And it's happening pretty consistently here throughout all the lanes. That it's just the pressure is just gonna keep ramping up, and it's gonna keep crashing down on them over and over again. And even if you are going to try to struggle back out of that position, it's very, very hard to do anything outside of it if you're looking for a 5v5 team fight. All of this, like, it's what is that saying? Where it's like the sum of its parts all together, as opposed to separate. It's some Greek philosophy or
Agreed. I agree.
Yeah. Oh. I was losing my mind. What?
No, you can hit him with that history lesson. In fact, do you know what's pretty historic right now? That gold lead. Look at that. It's like 7,500 already. 30 minutes into the game, looking they're just really gapping and really looking good with that momentum.
And it's a crazy difference. But I want to finish my history lesson. You agree, whatever spoken. The sum of all of their parts here is larger than the individual, and it is no more true in this situation than anywhere else, because as a separate unit, all of these champions, while they are apart and you see them from the top lane, in the mid lane, over in the bot lane, unless you are all together, you are not making Voltron. I'm pretty sure that's what the Greek philosopher said. Now, once you do have that, you come together with that sum of parts and you create the giant robot that is just amazing and fantastic. It is great. But right now,
wow,
you're not even getting a chance. You are getting torn apart. Your limbs are being torn apart because you are only limbs right now. And it is awful. We're seeing a 16-2 lead, and there is 16 kills over on side of T2. Well, it's not even 15 minutes.
5 kills onto the Sivir, 4 onto the Ahri, the solo lanes. In fact, there's 5 kills on the Poppy. Look at the itemization across the board here. No mythics coming through for the mid, the AD carry, or the support. You see Blue Sox going to engage on it. Sejanni again, MK Beaver going to get final chapter. Glacial Prince is going to go in, but not delay the inevitability that Kayn's going to fall in this one. Tauri's going to walk that one out in the top side, and they switch their bot lane up to the top, and the Poppy just says, I welcome all challenges. The chase is on, and you're certainly not going to catch me.
Oh, you're approaching me? Well, yeah, they are. They're not really getting anything for it, though. And we're seeing Cinnabon probably just going to match that as well now, too. Heading over into the top side and likely just running away with it. How much gold are they sitting on at this point? I want to say that I haven't seen Cinnabon recall for a while. He's sitting on 1,800 gold right now. What is happening?
It's not even his final form, and meanwhile, this might be the final form of Syzani. A repeat. Every damn time the boar is involved, going to go down again. Blue Sox picking up a freebie in that top river. They have no right to even push anywhere on this map. Look at the vision right now. That war of nutrition in the vision is certainly being won by T2, and that includes the game right now, as they're just short of a 10,000 gold lead.
It is a crazy lead right now, and regardless of if you want to go and clear out that vision too, and you want to try to keep up the pressure, you want to get back into this game, the entire portion of what has started out ahead and what can push you off these objectives is going to kill at least 2 people in any sort of fight. So now what you're forced to do over on T5's side is you need to be gathering up as a unit and then walking over and then trying to contest for something. But the question is what are you fighting for at this point? Because you know what? War.
Tari gets the
What is it good
steadfast
for?
presence to try and get off now upon light, but they are
5 people.
burning everything to try and kill this Poppy. They get the shutdown, but actually goes on to that Syzani. That's not going to
Oh,
feel
boy.
too great. Trainio goes across with the blasting cone, going to meet a Rek'Sai, and that's a Fed Rek'Sai. You might pay the price. Kane has to ult to try and stay alive here, gets a Reaping Slash back on him. He's going to trade over the kill. Okay, the Ari's going to fall here. This looks pretty good. T5 are in with a shout here. They're going to collapse on the Blue Sox. The exhaust going to go down, but one short of that permafrost, and that's enough to get him out of there. Wow, what a skirmish. They come out on top.
They were able to form Voltron briefly there, and they did manage to get the pick. But at what cost? You've lost your top lane tower. You've lost even more pressure that you can have towards the top side of the map. And now that Herald is on the table here, as well as Baron in the next 3 minutes, you have a wide open area where you are not going to be allowed to fight in for this next team fight. And it is going to be a difficult thing to do to get into that area. If we get this happen here, and then we do start to see some sort of push mid into pushing them into base, grabbing the Baron, we're likely seeing what's going to be happening in the next portions of this game here. But if you can, as T5, get your socks up, pull them up, and then just say like, hey, we're getting ready, we got to go, and you all huddled together, you might be able to grab something. It's just there will always be a cost until you can get away from that deficit, which is currently 10k.
So, unfortunately for them, there is a Sivir Yumi.
There's that too.
That's the drawback to these 5-on-5 skirmishes. Even if you get the picks, I mean, this might be a pick here. Charm going to go across. MK
Everything's
Beaver,
a pick at this point.
Flash right out of there, doesn't want anything to do with that Ari. It's actually going to be a Medjai's purchase for the mid laner. Ari feeling super confident in this one, and why the hell not? Wood 7 League has been playing a pretty damn good in both of these series.
Yeah, and as far as it goes, like just once again off the back of this Rek'Sai pick and off of Blue Sox. Blue Sox has been able to give agency to one lane, and then the other lane just kind of one agency by themselves by getting ganks anyways. And
Well, they
we
might be
do
looking
see
to
the Vex
fight
ult.
here. Yeah, Shelly's going to go down, but the Syzani goes forward. Look at that. Look at the Yumi. Final chapter goes on to Syzani. The bailout. Is there an assist to keep him alive? No, because Keeper's Verdict is going to secure that one. Trainio might be the next to fall. Is going to get away with a rush right there, and they're still looking at Siege. Okay, Sivir's going to flash forward, try and get the double back on that Boomerang Blade. Not going to happen. Going to get stunned up into the wall is MK Beaver. Exhaust going to be dropped to try and negate the damage. What damage? There is none. Bailout not going to land, not going to come through again. Sivir picks up the 6th kill of the game. They might be looking to try and crack these Nexus turrets, but it might just be the inhibitor.
And now you just go back to the dragon, and if you really thought that this wasn't going to be closed out before there was a chance, I am sorry, but we are seeing the beginning of the end. And I do want to say that, like, it was all off the back of this fantastic jungle play over from Blue Sox. as much as I'm calling it right now, it's kind of the writings on the wall. He has been essential. He has been just pivotal in everything that they have done so far in allowing them to get a hold of this game, and it really does show. And everything that he's done, I've agreed with the way his positioning has been. I do need to question. How do you feel about the way that it's been handled this game? It was I came in questioning the picks on the side of T2, and now that I've looked at the way that they handle the game, I'm coming back a changed man. Honestly, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, you know, like I doubted them. I shouldn't have.
Certainly looking really grim in this one for T5, but they still have the heart and soul to carry on this game. Obviously, they're trying their best to try and keep up with this onslaught, but it just seems like further and further away that they keep trying, they keep falling behind. So now the Baron is going to be spawned 21 minutes into the game, almost a 12,000 gold lead. It's pretty monumental. It's pretty diffy on the jiffy for this team. There just doesn't seem to be an answer at this onslaught. We might see a fight now. Okay, Charm's going to go through it. Everfrost's going to be comboed with that, but the boom ricochets from the Sivir is just incredible. The crit coming through picks up an easy dub. They're going to turn their attention to the Baron, and this looks like desperation plays if I've ever seen one. Charm going to go through from the area, trying to zone out the Kayn. The steal will try and delay the game a little bit, but who are you delaying it for? There's a Sivir Yuumi. He might be looking to try and steal this. Okay, minus 5,000 on that Baron. Gets electrocute going across. The whole team goes across to try and secure the kill. Umbral Trespass going to go down to keep him alive here. Okay, he's going to go back in. Gets his shot down onto the jungler. They pull him off the Baron and they collect the jungler. So that's going to delay it. Charm goes through on the Sejuani, and now upon light going to collect the 8th death of the game as we see Renata trying to withstand this onslaught of the Poppy in that bot lane.
And even when an opening presents itself, it's off of the back of trading for something else. Yes, you got the shutdown over onto Blue Sox, but even with that coming out, is it too little too late is kind of the question. And I'll be open to saying that I can be proven wrong. I've been proven wrong in the way that this draft could play out and how they could handle it. But that being said, it's like there's only so much that can be done here, as we are seeing what is likely going to be one of, if not the final push in the game.
Oh, second inhibitor is under siege right now. They do their best to force off T2 right there, and they do exactly that. That inhibitor is going to survive for just a little bit longer. His mid has already fallen, but 2 minutes on that Dragon Soul again. Can it be secured here? They got themselves in a really great position, and ultimately it seems like they're just too far ahead in order for T5 to actually do anything in this one. And the one thing we haven't really even focused on looking is we haven't seen the Vex with those big fears implement these team fights, try and get the picks, because the Vision game ultimately has just been won by T2. They control most, if not all, of this map right now.
And it's been wild to see how they've been pushing up their vision lines for every little bit that they have been controlling since the beginning of this game. Ever since those kind of early swings have been happening, we've been seeing that sort of creep up forward, and then they just constantly control it. And I had called it over in the first game, even just by looking at the teams on paper, kind of what they're looking to do in the first place. And it has been textbook in the way that they've been handling it here. As we see, maybe they're going to start up the Baron here. And is it noticed?
I mean, if it is, MK
so.
Beaver made the call to actually complete that recall, so they might have seen that ward going over the pit, and ultimately this Baron was always available for this team to secure, and they are. They're not messing around. They're going to try and close this one out, securing the Baron, and we'll see what comes of this Baron power play. You'll see resets coming in. Sejuani is going to go back, because you better believe this might be the last stand and the last chances of this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to be pushing up here, making sure that mid wave kind of holds, and then possibly either sending in the Sivir to top lane to go clear that wave, or maybe they'll just run it down mid. Maybe it's time for the NA ram. As far as it goes here, though, what else can we see that can be done? They're looking for a flank with the Kayn here.
Yeah, and Hebert is going to respawn. Hostile Takeover gets absolutely nothing, but Infinity Edge was actually completed for the Sivir. Going to charm up. NK Beaver comboed by the Everfrost is going to be enough, but Vex is going to delete the area. Okay, they got one of the carries already. Sivir still alive. Yumi's going to pick up the Vex on the back of that team fight. The Ricochets are doing a lot of damage. It's a 3-item Sivir, and she's taking over the damn team fight. She's taking over the game, and she might have just secured the game for her team. Is Cinnabons Yuri goes huge with that quad draw, and that's the ace, and that looks like the game.
And just like that, we see Voltron fall. All the sum of his pieces may have been better together, but they were not enough to take down the fury of T2. Please get a better name. Now, that being said, it was a great game overall, and I did enjoy this series and seeing how these teams developed. But I would like to say that I don't know, in my personal opinion, the player of that game and the player of this series, in fact, was Blue Sox for me.
Well, Panda, for the final time tonight, it was, I mean, if that wasn't a convincing win, I am not sure what convincing is, because the Sivir, the Yuumi, we spoke about it. Yuumi is a champion, if you want to call her that, and it certainly made a huge difference in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean I talked about looking at bot lane, seeing what was going to happen, and it turned off. They just went with it and ran off to the races. But of course, not just the Sivir Yuumi, that Rek'Sai, 2 games, just the shoulders on whatever that creature is. She is just super strong, tunneling all over the place and just causing so much pain. And Poppy too. I mean, everything was just on fire in this game, and it was night and day compared to the first one. The first one was a swing back and forth, but something clicked, and this team was just, I mean, they said, hey, I think 4-2 on our record is looking pretty good. Let's close this thing out, because I think we're gonna make it to the playoffs.
Oh,
And they did.
To the playoffs, they did.
Yeah, yeah.
And just like that, they secured it with force. I mean, if anyone was watching that and looks back at this game, having seen that, that's a team. That's a scary looking team now.
Well, how much more do you put a stamp on your chances of actually being a contender than that? Right? You put them to the sword, you play your win condition, which was Rek'Sai. 2 games in a row and really out macros everything. I mean, their communication was evident in that game. I felt like they were so on point with the vision. And I mean, we only spoke about it very briefly, but that vision ensured that they weren't going to get picked off. They didn't really give the Vex a chance to even roam. Kind of glued to that mid lane, didn't really get anything done. But a deathless Sivir Yuumi is just so like tilting. I mean, I'm tilted off my head. Just this Yuumi champion just offers so much. And the fact that you let it through, even for somebody who doesn't play this champion prolifically, you're just pressing buttons. You can forget the mouse. Just disconnect the mouse. Just press the buttons. You're all good. You can even play with touchpad, baby. It's that easy. Autopilot, but it has to be said as well, the Kool-Aid man, right place at the right time on the Yuumi, on the certain carries that could potentially win the team fights. And at the end, they're securing the Quadra onto the Sivir, where it actually looked like a favorable team fight. Honestly,
it really did, yeah.
Yeah, because the Kayn done big damage. They got that pick on the Ahri from the Vex, and then all of a sudden, you remember there's a bot lane to be remembered in that one.
There was like a, what was it, like a 10 or like a 9-0 Sivir at that point in the game, where it's just like, well, you did good, but actually,
yeah,
we got this going on. Yeah.
And there was just, it was, yeah. I mean, they turned that thing up to 11. They roamed well. They moved well. They had, it was almost as if they were reading a playbook, and they just next, objective. And I mean, it worked. And again, I mean, going into the playoffs, the other teams got to be looking at that saying, that first game, I think we could beat that team. What is the second game team? And if Rek'Sai is ever seen in the playoffs, you better be confident if you're that opponent, because that's just scary.
Or you at least bring something that's going to be able to handle it.
To deal with it, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Kayn definitely was the wrong choice to be able to handle that Rek'Sai. I get kind of like the thought process behind it and all of that, but like you're never going to match that same pressure. And that was kind of really what Blue Sox was able to do too, was just bring the pressure. The amount of pressure that they were able to bring that worked too in those lanes swung the entire game, and that was the story of both of those games too.
Yeah.
Like Blue Sox is just, if I were to have an aggressive jungler, I'm looking for an aggressive jungler, and then like any sort of even non-drafted team now, like, man, your value just went up, your stock's up. Like, I'm looking to invest. Like,
Well, do you know what? It's really unfortunate because I kind of touched on that already. That Kayn, it's almost like an obsession with Kayn players that if I want to go red, I have to go gang the melee champions. I forget about all the ranged, and then all of a sudden, do you know what? That Rek'Sai's like, do you know what, baby? Thanks for the free game. And I can't even remember even commenting on the evolution, the Darkin come through. I can't even remember what time that came through it. It was not even a factor.
it really wasn't. I think
So that's the problem with this champion though. Like, even if you continually gank the bot, okay, you don't have the CC that comes along with the transformation, sure. But you still get to that form quicker. You can still get your blue, not have to go blue, but then you get a timer on your red. So you're still guaranteed it. You just have to be more proactive. And certainly going into champions like Rek'Sai, you have to kind of balance out the risk to reward. Okay, if I don't gank for my team, I have to tell them to play safe. Like, you can't give anything over. But what if they play safe? Then they give over all the control of the vision, which we've seen. They give over the dragon. So the soul point was pretty primarily the cause of the downfall in most of these, because they ended up skirmishing in that bot side. They ended up losing the 2v2, the 3v2, because the wraparound coming through from the Rek'Sai was so prevalent, and it made it super difficult for them. So it has to be said that T2, they definitely played to that win condition. They looked good doing it, and other teams have to respect it going forward from this point.
definitely.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's gonna be interesting to see how these playoffs play out too, because as we're moving into them, we might have a tie for 4th in Division 1 too. So there might be some spicy stuff happening coming up. But yeah, I mean, it is just, there's something to be seen. We are actually gonna take a really quick break. I think we're gonna try and set up an interview. So we're gonna roll some dice back here in the green room and find out who's going to be coming in with us. But give us just a second to cool down after all that. And grab
I'm
some
really
more water
sweaty
popcorn.
right now.
We
Like,
need to grab
I
some
felt
more
like I
water
was
popcorn.
playing that game. Like,
We'll be right back.
Back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang,
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up. Come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was smooth once he rolled into it. And our first series was Big Bongo Boys playing up against Clarity Black. For the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a bit of fighting in the top lane, but not much happened besides that.
Oh, but the engage coming out from Sejuani, but it's trading back, and Maokai actually regenerated a lot more health than I would expected there.
For Boxer Squirrel, just really those kind of impacts making a huge difference in the gold.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I want to call them Triple B, BBB, or Big Bongo Boys, because they're not all same solos.
Then there was a mega turnaround fight for the Big Bongo Boys after they made a big dragon attempt, but then they got challenged again for the dragon attempt, which Big Bongo Boys won the fight towards.
On this side, and there's a 3v2 on the other side, but I can't punch to it, and I can't cut to it. But Boxer Squirrel in the midst of it all, unable to get too much out, but finds the Q before he's last dies, and Chicken Fried Rice 200 Chief with good depth does not unfortunately have the W enough up to heal him, and the call comes back in the circuit, flip finds one, can she find two? No, she gets shut down, and the exchange of lives is so insane. Can Maokai find the damage to Treble back? And he does, but unfortunately, it is the ace on the side of CLB that allows them to get this dragon.
Much later in the game, Big Bongo Boys chased Akali down in the bot lane, meaning that Clarity Black had so much freedom to take that first Baron, and from that Baron, they spiraled away from a teamfight and took the victory.
The higher ranked Clarity Black, and honestly, still
find the
performing
Akali.
extremely well.
Oh, and she can't get out simply, tries to ulti over the wall, but that's crucial. 4 members sent down. This is the freest Baron I've seen, and it's incredibly hard to siege anything. As we're talking about that, the dragon does in fact fall.
This will be a very important fight. Dragon Soul on the line. Let's see.
This is so easy, and the onslaught of shadows into all of the members. We talk about Wombo on one side, we talk about Wombo on the other side, but the whole time is not correctly pinned on enough members to make it worth it and to make it so they can make this comeback. And unfortunately, at the end, CLB take the
They don't.
and they look to take the game.
And then as we rolled into game 2, Maokai was picked again.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring
Maokai, the Twisted Treant.
Maokai is a support tank hybrid.
Bold move.
Overall,
Normally Darius is only reserved for those counter picks, and it looks like they're just going to respond with Maokai.
And the team was entirely green, so they kind of had the aesthetic advantage for the Big Bongo Boys. For the first 22 minutes, I kind of got distracted watching the LCS. 100 Thieves did win, to a big surprise of all the casters, and then we moved back into the game, where Baron and Soulpoint were both hit here by CLB.
Towards this dragon, we do have good depth running up from base. Let's see if we can get here in time.
And this dragon is down to 9 KHP. They opt to pull it out, so the potential steal is has a lot less potential to happen. The Maokai ulti for the engage. They want to make this happen. The Wombo combo, but the bullet time is just barely out of range, but it's not going to matter in the end. The Deathball comes too strong, but this Twitch is free firing in the backline. Field Death trying to stall time for his AD carry, but in a 1v4, when you're already routed and they're already on top of you, they make it look easy.
With CLB taking a massive victory in the second game and this series, it seemed like the casters had gone to Hogwarts, because every single time they were casting and made predictions, they just put a caster curse down on poor Big
As
Bongo
the
Boys.
series is taken by Clarity Black.
And that was Risen Unstoppable for the night. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Risen recap. Today we're looking towards Risen Unstoppable, and the stream started off with a
Wake
bang.
up!
Quicksand asleep.
It's the first game of Unstoppable Risen pre-made. Come on, get up, come
But
on,
I
come
gotta
on.
say, he was smooth once he rolled into it.
What's up, everybody? We are back, and we have a special guest with us, Blue Sox. An
Hello.
unbelievably dangerous Rek'Sai just tore up the rift, leaving tunnels everywhere. Blue Sox, how's it going? How are you feeling? Of course, gotta ask the question. How's it feel?
Pretty elated. You know, it was an important game to win.
Yeah, and also it was Game 6, that's for sure, of the season. But it's Draft League, so y'all drafted this team together as you came to this point, getting to 4-2 on the season. Can you give us a little bit about what that was like? I'm assuming you didn't know any of these players going into it. So what was the chemistry going that got you to this point?
Yeah, I knew absolutely none of the players, and it was interesting. It was because Sayori was our captain, right? He drafted all of us, and I remember we were at the last pick and we were looking for. Because I think I was originally drafted to be a top laner, and then we didn't have a. Anyways, none of that matters. We got together, and everyone's they're all a great group of guys, and we've played a few games. We clicked pretty instantly, and we had some good general game plans going into all of our games, and it's been going well. We've been getting better the more we play.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely saw some serious, what looked like really nice communication in that last game too. As we were talking, everybody just knew where to go. Every single play and objective. It was like watching. It was like you'd already written out that game.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I actually got a question for you too. It's actually in regards to, I guess, kind of about the team forming as well as to kind of keep it on the same page. But how long did it take for you guys to kind of like piece together how you were going to be playing the game and get to this point here where I guess maybe I've nailed it down. I could be wrong, but you guys definitely have a focus in you getting your laners ahead and kind of bridging the gap over into what is the late game, right? Like, did you guys figure that out early, or did it take time to kind of put it together?
Yeah, I mean, so an interesting thing to note is that I'm pretty sure we haven't had 2 games with the same roster yet.
Oh.
We've always had one person missing that we've had to scramble for a sub for. But the general idea always has been, like, since we drafted the team, our ADC, like, Sayori's like friggin' amazing at the game. He's like peaked masters this season. So the original plan was always to basically me play something aggressive, and then our regular mid laner plays lots of support champs. The idea was always to just play full around bot lane or just try and get laners ahead early, and then just steamroll from there. And when it works, it works.
I'm guessing when it doesn't, it really doesn't.
When it doesn't,
works,
it very much does not.
That is the flip side of that play style.
So
Exactly.
I actually want to cast your mind back to the game 1. So what was the feeling in the camp when the bot lane was? I mean, I'm spamming FF at 15. If my bot lane is going like that, I mean, was the confidence still there? I mean, you obviously sound like you guys are a pretty tight group, even though you've only recently known each other. And do you know what, that chemistry, you can certainly tell in that game too, especially. Like, there's no question about it at all. But was there any doubt in that game one that you guys were going to turn that around?
It was a little sketchy, but we weren't too worried because I had been playing really hard around mid lane. We knew Syndra was turbo fed, so we had that security. And then eventually we got those 2 shutdowns onto the Misfortune. We got the, what was it? It was the Sejuani, like 600 gold, and we got 600 gold off the Kaisa, and MF was just completely back in the game, and it was just over from there.
Oh yeah, that was a nuts gold swing because it went from
was
because
crazy.
Sedge had been like collecting every one of the kills up until that point too.
Yeah.
And then Kaisa in the same vein. So like at that point, I think it went from your MF was behind, I think by like 1.5k, and then the swing went to 1k like in her favor over the course of one fight.
Those
It was like,
shutdowns
what?
were insane.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's
But
really cool.
it really goes to show like the spirit that you guys have. I mean, you obviously seen by the way that the MF was playing that it's just not a case of like sacking the whole lane. Like, I'm still going to try and trade 2v2 even though you're so far behind. And it was obviously that you guys believed in the win condition that you already preemptively set for that game, right? It doesn't matter how the laning phase is going to go. You still have full belief in that you can get your AD carry back into the game. And ultimately, honestly, she put out DPS numbers beyond belief, even though she had such a really abysmal early game. So really, you guys, whether you play for the lane, which in this case, in the second game, I mean, you could just say that you guys just played for the map because the game was just over. But even the laning phase doesn't draw away the fact that you guys have a win condition. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you have multiple win conditions, whether it's win lane, win game, or if it's, okay, guys, we can give over a little bit in that early game and then we can practice for these skirmishes, you guys definitely held it down. So congratulations, man. Yeah, you definitely stood out as MVP in both of these games.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and just again, just
all of you.
quickly, the ability to adapt. I mean, what we saw were these pendulums, and they were not because of oopses. They were because of great changes in the gameplay. It's like, this isn't working. What do we do? And adapting to that. So just want to tip of the hat to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Lucan, anything else for our
I've got,
boy
I've
here?
got only one very important question to
It's
ask.
not Greek, is it? It's not Greek?
No, it's not. It's not a Greek
All right,
question.
baby, I
No,
got you.
no.
All right.
Like maybe I don't know if they invented them or something. But like, are your socks actually blue?
Funnily
Real
enough,
question.
Hey, that's
Funnily
sus.
funnily enough, my socks are gray.
Then he's a liar. All right, get him out of here. Get him out of here.
All right.
Get,
He doesn't.
interview's
doesn't matter.
over. I'm offended.
The real blue socks is the one that's on the Rift, and I mean,
Exactly.
knocking the socks off. If anything, nobody's wearing any socks after what we saw. So again, big congratulations to the whole team, and making it to the next step. You got a little bit of time to kind of figure out what to do. There's some dangerous looking teams coming through.
Yeah, of
and
course.
and I
And you're
actually,
one of them.
yeah, and you're one of them. So it's gonna be, everything's gonna be up in the air moving forward. Speaking of which, I've just been informed that Division 2 is going just bonkers right now. There's a potential 4-way tie for first. The game 3 is actually happening right now, and it again, this last day of everything is just a little bonkers. So we're gonna actually head off and raid that because we got to see what happens. But this has been an awesome night. Great esports and great League of Legends coming out of Risen. But there's 2 streams, and we're gonna go head on over to the other one. Of course, Lamb, Lucan, thank you so much for having me as your
Pleasure.
host. Winter on the backside, thank you too.